Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have captured the provincial capital of southwestern province of Nimroz. It's the first provincial capital to fall to the Taliban in recent years. The capture of Zaranj would add to the momentum of the Taliban, who have launched a major offensive across the country as the foreign forces complete the withdrawal. The development comes hours after the Taliban claim to have killed the head of the Afghan government media department. In Indian-occupied Kashmir, the troops martyred 2 Kashmiris during a military raid in Rajouri district. The latest killings come a day after Kashmiris observed Black Day to mark the 2nd anniversary of the region's illegal annexation by India. Israeli troops have shot at a Palestinian man and wounded several others during clashes in the West Bank. They were protesting against the construction of an illegal settlement outpost near the village of Baita. The Israeli army says it is firing artillery at South Lebanon in retaliation to more than 10 rocket strikes. Iran-backed Hezbollah confirmed it had fired rockets in Sheba farms in response to Israel's airstrikes earlier this week. The attacks come amid rising tensions between Israel and Iran that has played out in the Persian Gulf. Brazil has registered nearly 1,100 daily deaths from COVID-19 and over 40,000 cases. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 67 people have died, while more than 4,700 tested positive overnight. Globally, the death toll has crossed 4.2 million, with more than 200 million infections. In Pakistan, the National Assembly has unanimously passed a resolution condemning the attack on a Hindu temple by a charged mob in Punjab province. The resolution stated that rights of minorities and their places of worship will be fully protected. Condemning the incident, Prime Minister Imran Khan ordered the restoration of the temple and issued directives to bring the culprits to justice. The International Olympic Committee has expelled 2 Belarusian coaches for allegedly forcing an athlete to leave the Games in Tokyo. The case of Kristina Timanovskaya caught global attention after she refused her team's orders to fly home. She is now in Poland, where she has been granted a humanitarian visa. Those were the headlines and detailed stories. Right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Afghanistan, the Taliban claim to have captured the provincial capital of southwestern province of Nimroz. It's the first provincial capital to fall to the Taliban in recent years, though there has been no confirmation from the Afghan government. It comes as the Taliban continue to make rapid advances in the country as foreign troops withdraw. They have taken swathes of the countryside and are also targeting key cities. The capture of Zaranj would add to the momentum of the Taliban, who have launched a major offensive across the country as foreign forces complete their withdrawal. Earlier, the Taliban claimed to have killed the head of the Afghan government media department. Pakistan says the international community must not repeat its past mistakes in Afghanistan. Addressing the ASEAN Forum via video link, the foreign minister said a peaceful and stable Afghanistan is essential for regional peace. He said Pakistan remains steadfast in its support for the Afghan-led peace process and will continue to facilitate a negotiated political settlement. Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan condemns terrorist activities in all forms. He added that the perpetrators of state-sponsored terrorism must be condemned and held accountable. Qureshi also condemned the illegal measures to alter the demographics of disputed territories in violation of international laws. Speaking on Islamophobia, he said the issue needs to be addressed in an effective manner. He added that the world should also condemn the resurgence of fascism and hyper-nationalism. In occupied Kashmir, Indian troops have murdered 2 Kashmiris during a military raid in Rajouri district. The latest killings come a day after Kashmiris observed Black Day to mark the 2nd anniversary of the region's illegal annexation by India. Since then, the valley is reeling under strict restrictions, with India trying to stifle dissent. According to reports, Indian troops have killed nearly 400 Kashmiris after the region lost its autonomy in August 2019. Pakistan has summoned India's envoy to register its rejection of New Delhi's illegal actions in the occupied Kashmir. Foreign Office says the chargé d'affaires was told that India must reverse its August 5th move and lift the inhumane military siege. In a statement, the office said it reminded India to refrain from demographic changes in the occupied valley and cease extrajudicial killings. The Foreign Office spokesperson called for the release of the illegally detained Kashmiri youth and political leadership. Zahid Hafiz Chaudhary also urged for the withdrawal of over 900,000 occupation troops from the territory. Israeli troops have shot at a Palestinian man and wounded several others during clashes in the West Bank. They were protesting against the construction of an illegal settlement outpost near the village of Baita. 7 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli gunfire during the ongoing protest in Baita over the past few months. Israeli settlements are considered illegal under international law. The European Union has reiterated that Israeli policy of the settlement construction on occupied Palestinian territories is illegal. In a tweet, EU delegation to Palestine said the bloc members and like-minded countries visited Baita village near Nablus city.
The delegation included representatives from the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands and Sweden. The EU said the visit comes amid rising levels of settler violence against Palestinians and the building of an illegal outpost on Mount Sabi. All participants reiterated strong opposition to Israel's settlement policy. The delegation said the total number of settler attacks in 2021 has increased by 46% compared to the same period in 2020. It said 96% of investigations by Israeli authorities into alleged acts of settler violence do not lead to the filing of an indictment. The diplomats noted Israeli security forces have killed 6 Palestinians, including 2 children, since May. They said Israeli settlers and others who are responsible for crimes against Palestinians must be held accountable. Meanwhile, British Council Journal Diane Corner said settlements threaten the physical viability of a 2-state solution.
The Israeli army says it is firing artillery at South Lebanon in retaliation to more than 10 rocket strikes. In a statement, the military said most of those rockets were intercepted and the rest fell in open areas. Hezbollah confirmed it had fired rockets towards disputed Sheba farms in response to Israel's airstrikes earlier this week. There are no immediate reports of casualties from either side. The cross-border hostilities have been escalating amid tensions with Iran. Lebanese President Michel Aoun said strikes indicated the presence of Israel's aggressive intentions against Lebanon. Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz says the country's military is ready to strike Iran. This came as tensions continue to rise in the region following a deadly drone strike on an Israeli-managed tanker off the coast of Oman. In an interview, Gantz said the world needs to take action against Iran now. While Iran's foreign ministry called Israel's threat another brazen violation of international law. In a tweet, a ministry spokesperson said any foolish act against Iran will be met with a decisive response. Israel has said it provided hard evidence to allies that Iran was behind the attack on the tanker. The US and the UK also blamed Iran for the attack that killed 2 people and pledged to respond. But Tehran has rejected the accusation, warning against what it called attacks on its interests. The US has called on Iran's new president, Ibrahim Raisi, to return to talks on reviving the historic 2015 nuclear deal. A State Department spokesperson says Washington hopes that Tehran seizes the opportunity to advance diplomatic solutions. However, Ned Price warned the window for diplomacy would not remain open forever. He said at some point the benefits of reviving the pact will have been eroded by the advancements of Iran's nuclear program. He reiterated the US will defend and advance its national security interests and those of its partners. Raisi was sworn in yesterday, saying he will support any diplomatic plans to end sanctions on Iran. The UN Security Council is set to meet today to discuss the Afghanistan crisis. It comes amid an intensified fighting between Afghan forces and the Taliban amid foreign troops' withdrawal. The US says the Taliban's violence and hate have never been sustainable forms of governance. In a tweet, a US chargé d'affaires to Kabul said that the group's current offensive shows it only knows violence. In a tweet, Ross Wilson said Washington urges the Taliban to choose peace. Earlier, the European Union also called for an urgent, comprehensive and permanent ceasefire in Afghanistan. In a statement, the body said the Taliban should be held accountable for rights violations in areas under their control. Now, Brazil has registered nearly 1,100 daily deaths from COVID-19 and over 40,000 cases. Globally, the death toll has crossed 4.2 million with more than 200 million infections. More in this report.
With highly contagious Delta variant sweeping the world and vaccine issues, the hopes of returning to normalization have dampened. Since Sinovac showed only less than 60% effectiveness, Chile has announced to give a booster jab to those who received this shot. In the US, the world's worst hit country from COVID-19, New Delhi infections have climbed to a 6-month high. The Delta variant ravaged Florida and other states with lower vaccination rates. The White House also confirmed that it is considering requiring foreign visitors to be vaccinated.
The administration certainly understands the importance of international travel. And given where we are today, as Dr. Walensky showed us earlier, on the prevalence of the Delta variant, the United States will maintain the existing travel restrictions at this point.
China has reported its highest daily count for new coronavirus cases in its current outbreak, fueled by a surge in locally transmitted infections. South Korea has announced to extend its social distancing curbs by 2 weeks as more people fall severely ill. In Australia, more than half of the population woke up to hard lockdowns as the country battles to contain Delta outbreaks. Sydney reported another record number of new infections, while authorities warned residents to brace for worse to come.
But unfortunately, we had an increase in case numbers from yesterday to 291 cases of community transmission. There are a number of cases still under examination, but at least 50 of those were infectious in the community. And I do want to foreshadow that given this high number of cases, we're likely to see this trend continue for the next few days.
Over in Europe, Greece has imposed a nighttime curfew on 2 popular tourist islands to contain the spread of COVID-19. In Germany, health ministers' plan to place restrictions on unvaccinated people is facing stiff resistance from his coalition partners and the opposition.
In Pakistan, the COVID-19 has claimed another 67 lives overnight, taking the death toll to 23,702. The health ministry says more than 4,700 people tested positive for the virus in the past 24 hours. It said the caseload has now crossed 1,058,000. Meanwhile, more than 954,000 people have recovered so far. The number of active cases is nearing 80,000, of which more than 4,100 are critical. The ministry says the positivity rate of overnight infections was 8.18. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The UK has rejected Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's request for an extension in his visa. Sharif's party spokesperson said he can challenge the decision in the Immigration Tribunal. PMLN spokesperson Maryam Aurangzeb said the lawyers have filed the appeal. Aurangzeb said the party leader can reside in the UK legally until the appeal is decided. Pakistan's government advised Sharif to get a temporary passport and return to Pakistan to face the courts. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said Sharif's appeal will possibly be rejected as he is not sick. Chaudhry said the former Prime Minister might have to serve jail time for lying about it. Sharif has been living in London since November 2019 after he was allowed to leave the country for medical treatment. And to talk more about this, we have with us PMLN spokesperson Ms. Maryam Aurangzeb with us. Ms. Maryam, thank you very much for your time. So PMLN's political opponents have been talking about widening cracks in your party. How will this situation in the UK affect the party cohesion?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As you know that the application for the extension of the visa of the former Prime Minister Mohammad Nawaz Sharif has been rejected by the Home Office UK with the categoric note that he has a right to appeal in the Immigration Tribunal, the process has been triggered and the application has been filed for that. And till the time when the Immigration Tribunal gives the final decision and attains finality, the Home Office decision is ineffective till that time. So I think it will be premature to comment on what will be the decision of the Immigration Tribunal. I think we'll have to wait and let the lawyers do their work according to the right of appeal that the former Prime Minister has in Immigration Tribunal in UK.
So, Maryam, what would be PMLN's course of action if the tribunal upholds the decision of the Home Office?
I think it is more evident on the part of this weak government that it is, they're just celebrating because they have nothing to say about what their performance has been for the last 3 years. And if you look at the situation of economy, if you look at unemployment, inflation in the country for the last 3 years, and many more scandals that we have seen in the last 3 years about corruption, their allegations in the court have been defeated and no evidence has been put forward by the government or NAB in courts like in Lahore High Court or in Islamabad High Court. So they can only celebrate on these false accusations that they have been putting to the opposition and also to the former Prime Minister and Chief Minister Punjab Shehbaz Sharif. So there's nothing to celebrate, but I can understand their situation because they have nothing else to say other than, continuing their false accusation agenda on the opposition. The Prime Minister, if you remember, I want to draw your attention to the fact that when the Prime Minister was shifted from NAB to Services Hospital, his health situation deteriorated while he was in NAB. And then a medical board was formed by Punjab government in Services Hospital that recommended that the former Prime Minister's health is deteriorating and the treatment cannot happen in Pakistan. So on their application to Lahore High Court, the permission was granted to the former Prime Minister and then later by the Islamabad High Court, and the Punjab government and the federal government gave permission for the Prime Minister and recommended that he should travel to UK for his treatment as his platelets were going down. So while they are celebrating the fact and they're also continuing to feed and say that he has ran away, so the former Prime Minister is, by all means here. And because they're scared of him, because they're scared of his physical strength.
Ms. Mariam Aurangzeb, PMLN spokesperson, thank you very much for your time at Indus News. We really appreciate that. And to talk more about this, we are now joined by Mr. Ahmed Jawad, PTI Information Secretary, who is with us. Thank you for your time, Mr. Jawad. Did the PTI government play any sort of role to pursue the UK government in making this decision of not extending Nawaz Sharif's stay?
Okay, first of all, I would like to clarify that in case of Nawaz Sharif case, bringing back to the country, it is not a case of any personal vendetta. It is a case of rule of law. So if we are trying to bring back Nawaz Sharif, it is based on the rule of law. He's convicted. He's required here in Pakistan by the court decision. And he left the country based on health conditions, and he was supposed to return after 3 months, which he never. So obviously, he's required back to Pakistan according to the law, according to the court decisions. And on the other hand, he has extended his stay on political reasons, which definitely is not based on health reasons anymore, as all of us can see. That he is walking around in London, hale and hearty, and he's healthy, no problem. So the current decision by the UK authorities not granting extension to Nawaz Sharif is definitely about the local laws in UK. Obviously, PTI government, like I said, the rule of law, we have been pursuing officially and informing UK authorities that he's a convicted and he was given permission to leave the country for health reason, and he should be sent back. So obviously we did pursue, but on official grounds and based on merit, not any personal vendetta with Nawaz Sharif.
So, Mr. Jawad, how has Nawaz's prolonged stay affected his popularity over here in Pakistan?
I think this is according to the political traditions in Pakistan, where political figures, when the political environment is not suitable to their designs, they leave the country and then they try to create political influence remotely. We can compare it with the past precedent where Nawaz Sharif agreed to leave the country and under an agreement with Musharraf and stayed for many years in Saudi Arabia, and then he made a comeback. And then we also have the examples of Benazir Bhutto, Asif Ali Zardari, Altaf Hussain. So it is something which has been done in the past. And they try to reinvent their political stature by staying abroad, by staying away from the law of Pakistan, and they try to redesign their political agenda. And this is exactly what Nawaz Sharif is also trying to do, and staying away from the court decision under which he was supposed to be in the jail, not living a luxurious life in London.
So, Mr. Jawad, the PMLN accuses your party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, over politicizing Nawaz Sharif's health. How do you respond to that?
Political criticism, yes, it is part of politics, and especially in case of Nawaz Sharif, who is a convict, and under this government, by making a commitment to this government, he left the country. and he was supposed to come back. So obviously we will criticize his stay in London and his political ambition, which he's trying to carry out in Pakistan remotely from London and not facing the law of Pakistan here in Pakistan, our courts of Pakistan. So obviously it's a matter of criticism based on merit, and which PTI obviously is criticizing.
Mr. Ahmed Jawad, Secretary Information, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, thank you very much for your time at Indus News. And let's now take the legal perspective on this matter. For that, we are now joined by Mr. Ali Javed Bajwa, who is the legal expert. Thank you for your time, Mr. Bajwa. What could be the legal grounds for the UK Home Office's refusal to extend Nawaz Sharif's stay over there?
Okay, so the possible legal ground, or at least one of them, could be on the basis of criminality. So under the immigration rules, Rule 9 deals with the grounds of refusal. And so Clause 941, Subrule A, says that if a person, whether in the UK or outside the UK, has been convicted and he has to undergo a sentence of a period of 12 months or more, then that could be a ground of refusal. So in my view, that could possibly be one of the grounds for refusal. And since we all know that the ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was convicted for a period of 7 years in one of the NAV references, and also for a period of probably 8 years in the other reference. So I think that could be one of the grounds.
Okay, so Mr. Bajwa, now that the PMLN leader's stay in the UK is in trouble, is there any sort of legal means through which the government of Pakistan can ask the British government to expedite his return?
Okay, so this is very interesting because Pakistan does not have a formal extradition treaty signed with the UK. Pakistan has been making attempts and gaining grounds on getting an extradition treaty signed with the UK. But since currently there's no extradition treaty signed, and at the same time, since Nawaz Sharif has the option to file an appeal against the refusal of extensions to stay, so during that period, when the appeal is being heard, I don't think the UK will deport Nawaz Sharif. And so what the Pakistani government can possibly do is move an application to the UK authorities where they say that this person was convicted within our jurisdiction, and so he may be handed over to us. But unless and until that appeal is finally disposed of within the UK, I don't think Nawaz Sharif would be coming back anytime soon.
Okay, Advocate Ali Javed Bajwa, thank you very much for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate that. Now moving on, in Pakistan, the National Assembly has passed a unanimous resolution condemning Wednesday's attack on a Hindu temple by a charged mob in Punjab province. The resolution stated the rights of minorities and their places of worship will be fully protected. Condemning the incident, Prime Minister Imran Khan ordered the restoration of the temple and issued directives to bring the culprits to justice. The Chief Justice of Pakistan has also ordered an immediate arrest of the culprits.
मुझे बहुत खुशी है वज़ीर आज़म साहब ने इस मामले का ज़ाती नोटिस लिया.
I am very happy that both the Prime Minister and Chief Justice of Pakistan took personal notice of this incident. Those who harmed our Hindu brothers should be strictly punished, and we should stand up against all those who are targeting Pakistanis on the basis of race, color, or faith. Inshallah, Pakistan's future is of a progressive country where minorities are fully protected.
Prime Minister Imran Khan has expressed satisfaction over the steps being taken to ensure effective border control and internal security. He said this during a visit to Peshawar Corps headquarters. Chief of Army Staff General Javed Bajwa accompanied the Prime Minister as well. The Prime Minister lauded security forces for providing an enabling environment for the completion of the uplift projects in the newly merged districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He also appreciated troops for assisting the civil administration in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Pakistan says its ties with the US are moving in the right direction. National Security Advisor Mueed Yusuf says both sides are focused on outcomes and not optics. In a tweet, Yusuf said he has concluded a constructive visit to the U.S. The advisor said he held discussions with his U.S. counterpart, Jake Sullivan, and think tanks. Earlier, Yusuf said Islamabad will not accept a forceful takeover in Afghanistan. In a press conference at the Pakistan embassy, he said Kabul has been trying to scapegoat Pakistan for its failures. He urged the government of Afghanistan and the Taliban to compromise and reach a peace settlement. The US and South Korea have agreed to continue diplomatic efforts for engaging North Korea. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and South Korean Foreign Minister Chung Eui-yong discussed the matter in a phone call. South Korea's foreign ministry said the two leaders stressed the goal of complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, State Department said the secretary confirmed US support for inter-Korean dialogue and engagement. Last week, both Koreas restored the hotlines that Pyongyang severed a year ago. Seoul's officials say leaders of both states are seeking to repair the strained ties and resume summits. Moldova's parliament has approved the commencement of Natalia GAVRILITA as the new prime minister. Formerly a finance minister, GAVRILITA was nominated by President Maia Sandu after their party won snap elections in July. Sandu defeated her pro-Russian predecessor, Igor Dodon, in a presidential election in November and called the snap polls to consolidate her power. Moldova has been dogged by instability and corruption scandals in recent years, including the disappearance of $1 billion from the banking system. The West and Russia are competing for the influence in the ex-Soviet Republic, which is one of Europe's poorest nations. An armed group has killed at least 30 people in a series of attacks in villages across northern Burkina Faso. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said the military killed 10 attackers and had regained control of the area. The ministry noted the victims included 11 civilians, 15 soldiers, and 4 government-allied militia members. It said attackers also stole cattle and set properties on fire. It added the counteroffensive to find the assailants is ongoing on the ground. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. At least 2.3 million children and youth are facing hunger crisis in northeastern Nigeria. The escalation in violence in the country has forced farmers to flee their fields, putting the region on the brink of critical food shortages. International humanitarian group Save the Children estimates that 700,000 children under 5 are among the 2.3 million children affected. It called on the government to protect farmers and dedicate more resources. While the UN Humanitarian Coordinator for Nigeria, Edward Kellen, said about 4.4 million people were at a risk of critical food shortages. He added that the growing threat of catastrophic food insecurity was at its worst in 5 years. Attacks by armed groups have intensified in recent months, with dozens of soldiers and civilians killed, including farmers. In North Korea, flash floods due to heavy rains have caused immense destruction along the country's east coast. The state media said thousands of people were evacuated while hundreds of homes were damaged. It said farms and roads have also washed away. The reports come as concern grows about damage to crops and its potential impact on food supplies in North Korea. The country is cut off from most foreign imports and aid by international sanctions. In Greece, hundreds of people have been evacuated from an island near Athens as the region braced for the 4th day of wildfires. Temperatures have been over 40 degrees Celsius all week, while gale force winds are expected to spread the flames further. More in this report.
As searing conditions persist in Greece, the Civil Protection Authority has issued an extreme fire warning for half the country. Coast Guard vessels assisted by tourist boats picked up 631 people from 3 beaches on the island of Evia. The flames have burned through a vast area of pine forest on the island and reached the sea. The skies of Athens are again clouded by thick smoke. Wildfires on the northern outskirts of the city have burst back into life after dying down earlier in the week. Crews with water-bombing aircraft tried to prevent the flames from reaching the nearby town of Marathon. Meanwhile, villagers in the western Peloponnese refused to evacuate their homes.
Leave and go where? And let my house burn? If we had left, this place would have burned. We told the women and elderly and the kids to go, and whoever was able to stay to help us, however they could.
The blazes have erupted across Southeast Europe as a heat wave is baking the region for a second week. North Macedonia's government has also declared the country in a state of crisis for the next 30 days due to wildfires. Meanwhile, battling blazes for over a week, Turkey says it aims to bring all of them under control on Friday. Authorities said efforts are underway to put out the 13 fires in 6 provinces.
China's rover Yurong has traveled for more than 800 meters on Mars, including over complicated terrain. The China National Space Administration says the rover has worked on the surface of the red planet for 82 Martian days. The rover has been in orbit for 379 days and is functioning properly. Meanwhile, China has launched another communication satellite into space aboard a Long March 3B carrier rocket. The Zhongxing 2E can provide transmission services for radio, television, and broadband multimedia for national institutions. The launch is 383rd flight mission of the Long March carrier rocket series. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. And now the business updates. The Wall Street stocks have surged after a stronger than expected jobs report, sending 2 key market averages to all-time high. According to the Labor Department's data, the unemployment rate dropped to 5.4%, below the estimates. The S&P 500 traded marginally up, while Dow Jones Industrial gained nearly 0.5%. But Nasdaq Composite traded nearly 1% lower. Meanwhile, the oil prices have risen, but set for weekly loss on demand worries. In the Tokyo Olympics, China, Germany, the US and England are among others to clinch the gold medals on the 14th day of the Games. China's men's team brushed aside Germany 3-0 in the final to win the Olympic gold medal. Italy's Filippo Toto ran a breathtaking final leg to help win the men's 100 meters relay gold, while American Allyson Felix won a record 10th Olympic medal after finishing 3rd in the 400 meters. Slovenian champion Janja Gonbret claimed the first gold medal in women's climbing, while Japan's Miho Nonaka secured silver. Serbia's Jovana Prekovic defeated China's Yin Xiaoyuan to win the gold medal in the women's karate of 61 kilogram category. China leads the medal standings with 36 golds, followed by the US with 31 and host Japan on 24. Two Belarusian coaches have lost their Olympic accreditations after allegedly attempting to force an athlete to leave the Games in Tokyo. The International Olympic Committee has also confirmed that Arthur Shimak and Yuri Masayevich had left the Olympic Village. The case of Kristina Timanowskaya caught global attention after she refused her team's orders to fly home. She is now in Poland, where she has been granted a humanitarian visa. The case has again put the spotlight on Belarus, which has been ruled by President Alexander Lukashenko since 1994. Last year, nationwide protests over his disputed re-election were violently repressed by the security forces. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. With the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at IndusNews.